Song of Solomon chapter 1, 16 and 17. In fact, much of my preaching is going to come from Song of Solomon. 16 and 17, it says, "Behold, you are handsome, my beloved. Yes, pleasant. Also our bed is green. The beams of our houses are cedar, and our rafters of fir." Note the phrase, "also our bed is green." But the whole book of Song of Solomon is geared towards explaining the love relationship between Solomon and a certain woman whom the Bible describes as a Shulamite woman. The Bible does not specifically make us know who she was, but she seems to be the sweetheart of Solomon. There are indications that that woman was a black woman, for your information. If you read the beginning of chapter 1, you would know that she says, "I am black but beautiful." So there are indications she was a black woman, but that's not what we're dealing with today. That's for your information. But this relationship between Solomon and this woman is presented in the book of Song of Solomon poetically. Now, if you have a normal King James version, the whole book is written throughout as speech coming from one person. But in my Bible, for example, there are better clarifications, because the things that are recorded in the Song of Solomon are not one person's speech. There are answers and response. Sometimes it's Solomon speaking, sometimes it's a Shulamite woman, sometimes it's the daughters of Jerusalem speaking, and sometimes it's the brothers of the Shulamite woman who are speaking. And I would try to make the distinctions for you as I preach. In this particular verse that we read, the one speaking is the woman, the Shulamite woman, because he says, "You are handsome." Now, a man cannot tell a woman, "You are handsome." So it definitely is a woman who is telling the man, "You are handsome." He says, "You are handsome, my beloved. Yes, pleasant. Also, our bed is green." At the beginning of the relationship between Solomon and this woman, this is one of the points that is made concerning the relationship between Solomon and the beloved. They had a green bed. Now, having a green bed has nothing to do with the paint or the polish that was used to make the bed, but it talks about the condition of their relationship. The green bed talks about freshness. It was not a brown bed, it was a green bed, talking about a bed that has not been defiled. In other words, the relationship between Solomon and this woman did not begin with a sexual relationship. It began as a friendship between a man and a woman. At the time Solomon married this woman, they had not had sex before. And so their bed was also described as green. It says the foundation for every relationship between Christians that eventually leads into marriage. For Christians, every relationship must first begin pure and end pure. For the unbeliever, when he gets into a relationship, he does not think of friendship. He first thinks of going to bed. When an unbeliever sees a woman, the first thing he thinks of is somebody he can go to bed with. And when an unbeliever woman sees a man, that's the first thing she sees. Or maybe first she sees a man I can take money from, and then do the second thing with him. But in the church, going to bed with somebody is not the primary reason for a relationship. In the church, people should be able to have relationship and grow in the relationship until they marry, before they think about having sexual relationships. Unfortunately, we live in a world where that system is not a very popular system. Because we live in a world which says that before you buy something, you must test the thing to see whether it will work. And so, by that logic, people say that before you marry, you must test the man and test the woman and see whether they will function. Now, I agree that you should test before you marry. But what kind of test are we talking about? Is it test to see whether the person can become pregnant? Or test to see whether the person is equipped as a woman? Or equipped as a man? That you don't need to test, you only need to believe. Because God, who made the male and the female, had made them that way, and you don't need any test to prove God's work. What God has done, He has done. So what kind of test are we talking about? It is more a test of character than a test of sex.